Okay, and do make sure that you're on speaker view and not gallery view, so that you can view this large. So this is the elephant drawing. We are going to draw a realistic elephant. Um, as Lisa mentioned, we're focusing on negative shapes. Negative is not something that is a bad thing. It sounds like it, but negative shapes. So really, right over here is a negative shape. So it's the shape outside or sort of outside an object, or maybe it's kind of like the air around an object. So for instance, as I just did here, this kind of makes a shape. And why that is important is because it can help you determine where to put your lines. So it's pretty neat. If you can't figure out why something doesn't look quite right, you can sometimes use the negative space, which is really neat. So we are going to get started here. And we're going to need our pencil. So the only things you're going to need this evening, as I mentioned in the chat, is a pencil and a tortillon or blending stump. If you don't have that, you can use a Q-tip. And if you don't have a Q-tip, you could use a tissue or a piece of paper towel. And worst case scenario, you could use your finger. Um, it does get a little bit messy for you, but it does achieve the right thing as far as the shading. All right, so we're going to start off on the top right side of our paper. As you can see, oh, wonderful. Um, as you can see here, we're going to start off with the right side of the head. Well, he's in profile, and we're going to come down a bit from the top. So probably about maybe 1.5 inches. Yep, and no worries about tortillons. You can find them on Amazon or Michael's, but really, I always used to use Q-tips and my finger. So it's great. It works just the same. So we're creating the top of the head, and then what we're going to do is we're literally going to kind of swing down at an angle for our elephant's trunk. And if you notice right now, I'm not worried about the wrinkles or anything. We're just kind of worried about, or not worried, but thinking about the where the trunk is. And so when we get to about here, we're going to start to add the horns or the tusks. So the first tusk, which is closest to us, and then we have the actual mouth part that the tusk is in. And so we're going to just sort of create that section. I'm going to adjust my camera just a little bit. There we go. I felt like it was a little bit far away. I'm also going to give some more light. I think that will be more helpful. Okay. All right. I'm going to move my tusk up just a little bit, curve it up just a little bit here. I want it to go a little bit more upward. like so. And then we can finish off with the rest of the trunk. So you want to make sure that your lines are light because we're going to be adding in the wrinkles. I always recommend when drawing to go very light. As I always say to the kids when I'm teaching kids, draw light until you get it right, because it's much easier to erase a lighter line, as you know. We want this trunk to go down almost to the end of our paper, and then it curves. So I originally had it a little bit up there, and I'm now fixing it a bit. And our trunk kind of curves around. And so we're going to make a shape like this at the end there, and we'll go back and recreate or add in the details. And I'm going to wait for everyone to catch up. I know I've kind of been going a bit fast, so I'm going to give everybody a chance to catch up. So good to see everybody this evening. I know this is a very busy week with Passover and Easter and spring break for the kids. I've definitely noticed in my classes, um, a slowing down. The great thing is that we record these and you can do them again. Um, you can share them. You can basically do it at your own pace. I actually had someone redo the elephant in color, in colored pencil. It looked really good. I want to see if they can send it to me so I can add it to my next newsletter. I do love black and white. I have to admit, it's probably my most favorite medium besides colored pencil. Okay, so once you have the basic shape, we're now going to finish up our elephant over here on the right by adding the mouth and also the ears. So, and actually, we're going to come down and add the mouth starting here. This is the top part of the mouth. And then we're going to come right where this part is curving, and we're going to add the lower lip. So it's a bit bumpy looking. And we are going to add some of those wrinkles in his face because that's going to give us the side of the face. So we're going to go up with a big wrinkle. That's what this is here. And that's going to lead us into his big floppy ear. And that is this line right here. We will add more wrinkles later on. But his ear is going to come out. And this is part of the bottom of the floppiness of it. This is also part of the ear. It's going to take you to the edge of your paper here. I'll let everybody catch up. You know what, let's draw this other section right here as well. I'll wait for everyone to catch up. So we may be going back, and again, as we start working in the wrinkles, um, we may be changing some lines as we go forward, but that's why we draw our lines lightly. Okay, and then we have a curved line that is now going to represent his body, and that's going to start about right here. And so this is his neck. It's going to go down toward the bottom of your paper, but we're going to stop right there because his leg, his front leg, is coming into the picture as well. And that's what this is. So this is the curve of his leg, and it's going to bend and then go down. So we just see a portion of it. We just see that bend in his leg. And look at that, we have a side profile of an elephant. Now we start getting into the details. So I'm going to adjust my camera so that it is a bit closer. And we are going to come back up towards the head, but sort of in the middle between the head and the mouth, because we're going to draw his eye. So his eye is situated around right here. So if I were to try to figure it out, I'm going to look at this portion of his mouth. And I'm going to take my pencil because I know that the eye is about right here. It's almost like I'm drawing an imaginary line, because if I do it here, you can see I'm kind of drawing an imaginary line, and the start of his eye is right there. So let's do that here. I'm going to draw an imaginary line, and his eye is about right here. So we're going to make the shape sort of like a squished football shape, kind of curves at the end there. And we can fill it in a bit with our pencil. So first we create the white part of his eye, and also the round part of his eye. So right now it actually looks like kind of a caricature. And we're going to do one right there too. I'm going to go even closer and move my paper down so that you're able to see. And then we're going to shade rather darkly in this section of his eye. So we're just shading around the white area of his eye. And as you can see, there's a little bit of a section here that is still there. And Audrey's coming on. Welcome, Audrey.
Hi, Anita. I just got the
Hi.
link.
Great. It's good to see. Good to hear you. Yeah, eyes are hard, Jesse. I agree. They're my favorite though. I have always enjoyed creating eyes and portraits, but they're hard. So once we have our elephant eye, oh, tips for eyes. Um, practice. um, Definitely starting with a football shape, but also, um, yeah, I would definitely say start with a football shape. I know that sounds so um, basic, but most of our eyes are kind of football shaped. Some are larger football shaped, and others are more of like a squished football shape. Um, y- I would recommend even taking magazines, cutting out different eyes and just trying to draw them. Um, it's kind of a fun way to get to know eye shapes. So I hope that's helpful. I'll have to put out a tutorial on my YouTube channel. I'm going to write that down to do a tutorial for eyes. And if anyone is ever interested in other tips, let me know. And I will make a YouTube video of it. Okay. So right around the eye, we're also going to start with kind of a light wrinkle. This wrinkle is going to kind of go around the eye like this, like that. And we'll be lightening that up a bit, but we have it in here. And so now what we're going to focus on are the actual wrinkles on the outside of the elephant. And then we'll finally get to the shading. We're also going to add in, before we actually, no, we're gonna start with the wrinkles on the outside first. I was sort of thinking we could kind of add in the other tusk, but I think we should start by reconstructing the wrinkles on the outside of the elephant. So please join me at the top of the head again. So we have these bumps, and we're going to add one more bump up here like that. Oops, sorry, let me move my picture in view here. I realized since I had gone closer, didn't exactly have it in view. So I apologize for that. Let me adjust it again. Okay, so we have a little bump up here. This comes down. So here is where we're going to start adding the wrinkles. So you might want to lighten up the line that you drew for basically the outside. It doesn't mean erasing it all together at this point, but just kind of lightening it up. You can see that I'm still able to see where I drew the shape. But now this gives us more ability to imagine the wrinkles. And so let's do that now. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding kind of bumps and then going in, bumps and going into the skin. Okay, so starting here. So we're still kind of following the shape, but we're going to start adding bumps and wiggles with a big one happening right here. And for now, we're going to add sort of a triangle shape there, and then it bumps out again. And that's going to lead us to our tusk. Again, bumpy. And it's okay if your bumps don't look exactly like mine. But we're going to continue going in and out like so. We're going to continue this going around. And here we have the bottom of the trunk, the snout. And we're going to go around, and then we're going to actually draw the bottom of the snout. That is what this is. So we kind of have the overall shape. And here is the bottom of the snout, and it's kind of snuggled up with the rest of the trunk. And now is where we really get bumpy. Lots of bumps happening here. And we're going to continue that until we hit the bottom portion. I'm going to make mine a little bit higher. So I just fixed on mine this section because I was looking at the overall shape. This is the negative space, this space in between here. And I looked at mine over here and I realized that it wasn't correct. So I just moved up the shape here. And so you should now have a rather bumpy outside of your elephant. And now you can go back and erase your previously drawn lines, if there are any. I have a few, but we pretty much used the same line. We just made it a bit bumpy. Okay. And now we're going to make sure that our tusk is now drawn completely. And we're going to add the other tusk. And so the end of the tusk is slightly pointy. There's that point. And then just take your time. And then we're going to add the other one that is right behind. But this one is a bit pointier. Okay. So now we're going to start adding more wrinkles. And so at this point, we're going to be making them very light. We'll be going back later to add shading, but we're going to be making them very light. So we're going to start up at the top of the head again, and we're going to be adding some lines and a little bit of shading as well. So here's one wrinkle, and here's another. So see how light I'm doing it? And again, I'm going to go even closer. So we're going to kind of go down where the trunk is, and we're going to be adding in some of those wrinkles. And so for instance, those wrinkles are sometimes going to curve like so. And also, they're going to be kind of disjointed lines to indicate that his skin is wrinkly. So just by adding that small amount of detail, that should really liven up your elephant. We're going to continue with adding these lines going down this side of the trunk here. So we obviously skip over our tusk here. And we're now going to start adding more close together wrinkles. And you want to start varying how heavy your and how light your line is. So for instance, sometimes I start off with having the line a little bit darker. And you can make wrinkles in between those as well. We're going to be doing more of that on the other side. We're going to be extending those wrinkles coming from the right side of the trunk. But you want to just kind of continue adding some of these lines. And we're going to now switch to the other side of the trunk. But before we do that, we have to add a curved line coming from here that is sort of the other part of the trunk. Because his trunk now looks three-dimensional by just adding that line. I'm going to move in a little bit closer again to the camera here. There we go. So we're now going to start adding more wrinkles coming in from this side. These wrinkles are going to be light, even lighter. So for instance here, and then we're going to start extending kind of, like hairline wrinkles, very light wrinkles in between. And the wrinkles that we're doing now are also going to kind of be meeting up with the other side or going in between. So making lots of these little wrinkles. When you're done that, you want to then make wrinkles on his curvy spout here at the bottom. And your wrinkles are actually going to curve just like his spout is doing. So if you see the direction here that I'm going, I'm actually kind of curving it. And that's going to give you a very realistic shape for your elephant trunk. And I'll let everyone catch up because we'll have plenty more wrinkles to add to our elephant as we move into his face. I am amazed how windy it is this evening again. I mean, it did start today. I feel like the wind this winter going into, I guess this is our spring. um, the wind has been something else. It's like Scooby Doo wind. What I remember you know, when I used to watch Scooby Doo, the cartoon. There's always this spooky, windy sound. I feel like that's what the wind is like this evening. Okay, let's add some more wrinkles. So we're first going to come to around the mouth area. And we're going to come to where the tusk is. And first we're going to make this line a bit darker. And we're going to follow that around to this part of the mouth. And at the end of it, we're going to make a little bit of a triangular shadow. I'm going to add a little light to this. I don't know if that's better or worse. Maybe a little bit. So right here. And then this part, we're also going to darken it up a little bit as well. We're going to stay around the mouth and we're going to add another wrinkle. It's going to curve like so and be a little bit thick, a little bit shaded. We're also going to make a shadow shape right over here on the other side of his mouth here, of his lip. It's going to kind of look like that. We're going to add a few more wrinkles and a little bit of a shaded spot here. So again, we will be going back and creating more shading, but this is helpful along the way to add some over here. And we're going to add another kind of set of wrinkles that kind of looks like this. And this is lighter. So just added this line here, this curved line here. And we're going to add more wrinkles toward the tusk here. So on this side of the mouth, We're going to add a wrinkle that goes like this, and then one right underneath it, and one more that's lightly shaded, like so. Then we're going to move up towards his eye, around this area. And we're going to come to this part where we added kind of a wrinkle around his eye. And we're going to kind of extend that wrinkle a little bit like this. And we're going to add one more little kind of curvy wrinkle here. That's right where his eye is. So we're now going to be working around his eye. We're going to add some little fine wrinkles. We have another one down here. It's kind of boomerang shaped. And from that, we're going to go above it and do another kind of boomerang shape in the opposite direction. And another one. Kind of like, here's one and here's one. And I'm pointing to them. Yep, he's got crow's feet. Our elephant has crow's feet and all kinds of wrinkles. I love it, Jessie. It's going to bring us to this big wrinkle. And we're going to do some shading to the right of it. So we're almost going to make what looks like another wrinkle to copy it. And then we're going to fill it in just lightly for now. Okay. And that's going to bring us over to the ear, or in between the face and the ear, because we're going to add some more, you guessed it, wrinkles. So we have one coming from this section, and it's going to be a curved line like this. And we're going to add two more curved lines from there, like so. And again, I'm pointing to those. And this is going to bring us to the ear, of which we are now going to make the line darker. And so we're going to start right here at the bottom of the ear. And we're going to make that line much darker. And for a minute, we're also going to come over here and make that line darker and the next, because we're going to shade this area. And for now, we're just going to shade it an even shade. We'll go back later and we'll create a part that looks a little bit darker. But for now, we just want to shade that area. That's the bottom of his ear. Move up a little bit. Excuse my camera. I'm just going to straighten it out a little bit. There we go. Okay. So we're still going to be right here where the ear is. And we're now going to make this line very dark. That is his ear against his head. And once you do that, you can then do some shading right next to that line. And so all of a sudden we've created his ear, of which we're going to add some more wrinkles. We have a little bit of a curved one happening right near it. And that's this. And then right where his ear is sort of starting to flap over, we're going to make a shaded area that looks triangular. And for now, we'll just fill it in lightly, like so. We're going to start adding in some of these lightly, lighter shaded areas along with our wrinkles. So we're going to stay up where the top of his head is, and we're going to shade this bump here. And then we're going to make the line just come out a little bit right there. And we're going to stay up in this area because then we're going to create another sort of triangular, kind of curved triangular shape like this. And then we're going to quickly fill it in. And here again, we're not worried too much about how dark it is yet. We will come back to that. Okay. So we're still staying in this area, and we're going to really start adding the rest of his wrinkles. We made this shape here. We're going to skip a little bit of space, and we're going to add another shape that's going to look like this. So this is all very light. This is going to kind of go towards his eye. So it's very light, and then you're going to kind of shade that in. And again, just shading it in quickly and lightly because we're gonna smooth all this out. Our elephant is starting to come to life here. I'm gonna adjust my camera one more time so you can also see the other one as we are getting closer to the finale here. Okay. So we created this area. We're going to now come around the eye, and the outside of it, we're going to be shading, but we're going to make a very light kind of shaded area right here. And we're going to shade that very lightly. And we're going to extend that shading where the corner, this corner area is happening. And we're going to shade into his wrinkles. It's going to kind of look like this. So again, I'm going to point to where that is. And then we're going to focus first around the tusk. So right above the tusk, we're going to start adding some light shading, and that's going to extend toward his trunk. It's going to look a little bit like this. So just some kind of light shading. And you want to make sure to darken up that tusk a bit. I almost said his trunk, but you're going to darken up the tusk a bit. And we're also going to shade underneath the tusk. So it's going to be rather darkish under here. And I'm going to kind of shade it dark first to kind of show you. So in this area where it's kind of, the skin is kind of curved, you're going to go sort of a medium dark. So we're not exactly getting into black yet. It looks dark. And then you're going to continue your shading. We're going to shade along this side of the trunk, but it's going to be light. It's going to be even lighter. And you're just going to shade down the whole side. where the bumps are. Kind of in a line. You're also going to shade a bit right on this side of the end of the trunk, but it's that side because it's curving inward. We're going to do some shading down here too on this side of the curved bottom portion of the trunk. And you can make this line a little darker outside of it for some emphasis. So here I shaded a bit and then I darkened up the line for emphasis. And we're going to do the same with this curved line as well. And we're also going to now go back to each of the pointy areas and bumps. And we're going to shade a little bit darker on those. So I'll say that again. As we are staying on this side, first we added some light shading. And now we're going back to that same side, but we're just shading on the bumps a little bit darker. So it's getting there. And then we're going to switch to the other side of the trunk. And we're going to very lightly, we're going to go around the trunk and we're just going to very lightly add some strokes with the side of our pencil. And that's also going to bring us to the other side of our trunk, where we're also going to very lightly, so light, like just touching the paper using your pencil and kind of scribbling down on the other side of the trunk. See how light it's very light. Let me see if I can add some more light to this. Yeah, very light. Kind of to about right here. And then we're actually finally going to get into the tusk. So I like to come back over here where the tusk is meeting up under the mouth. And we're going to make this line a little bit darker. And then we're going to come back first underneath the tusk, and we're going to add a little bit more dark shading right underneath the tusk. So we're on the side of the skin, but we're just shading a little bit darker right underneath the tusk. So see that difference? I'm going to show it up close. See that difference? How it's darker here and it's darker, but not black. This is almost black. That's what's going to give it some depth. And then we're going to get into the tusk. Right around this area, we're going to shade lightly, like so. And we're going to leave a bit of the tusk white on the bottom. So we're not going to shade around that part. So I'm going to go really close now. Let me adjust my camera here. And then we're going to go around using light strokes with the side of our pencil, like so, to add some shading. And we're even going to go up into the tusk, and we're going to add little, kind of little light strokes. And don't forget the edge of the tusk here. Just a little bit of shading so that it looks three-dimensional. We're going to add a little bit of some light shading to the other tusk, just here in the corner where it meets up with the trunk. All right, we're getting to the finishing portions. Next step, we're going to now go back to the mouth. So this area here, and we're going to add some light to medium shading right here around the mouth. And we're going to then go a little bit darker and outline the mouth a little bit more. And then we're going to shade the bottom lip area. So we're talking about this area. So you may want to kind of re-outline it a little bit along with the bottom jaw. That's what this is right here in this whole section. And we're just going to add some light shading to that whole area. This is the mouth, the bottom lip. And we're going to take that shading along sort of the jaw as it goes up into his cheek here. And we're going to add two more wrinkles, two more curved wrinkles going up here. Very light. We're now going to go on this side of where this is his face, and this is where his ear is kind of flapping over. We're going to go a little bit darker here, right up against where the ear is flopping over, because there would be a shadow, and into the crease. And then the rest of that section is going to be light shading. We're going to come back down to this section of the ear, and we're going to add some kind of medium shading here. We're also going to add a little bit of the outside of his flapped over ear, and that's going to look like this. So it's going to be a curve like that, and then you're going to shade the top portion of that curve. And we're going to start to add some random kind of curved areas of shading that are kind of like teardrop looking as it goes up the ear. So I just added all of these. And then we're finally going to come down into this section where this is his body and leg. And you can sort of, we want to kind of go over it one more time in pencil, but making it a little bit more bumpy for this section. And then this line is going to be darker. This is his leg. We're now going to add some light shading in this whole section over here. And if you notice, I'm not worried about my shading being nice and even. I'm okay with it being kind of quick. And you'll do a little bit darker shading right where the side of his chest meets the leg. And then you're going to shade into the top part of the leg, all along the line of the leg. And then we'll do some more random wrinkles on this area to make it look more wrinkled. We're almost done. Probably another 5 minutes if that's okay. Okay. So still staying here around where the leg and the chest area is. We're going to come back on this side. So we're going to stay on this in this section for now. And we're going to make some really light lines to indicate creases and wrinkles. So what I'm doing here is I'm lightly creating lines to make wrinkles, but I'm making them very light. As you can see, I'm kind of shading as I create those lines. And then right along the edge here, you want to shade a little section just a little bit darker. Just because there'd be a shadow right underneath his ears. We're going to extend some of those wrinkles to his leg. And so that means the same thing that we were just doing. You're kind of making shaded lines and they're wrinkles. And you're just going to keep kind of going down the leg, making little shaded lines. And at one point, you do want to make some curved lines on the other side of the white area. And we have two final things to do. The first is shading a little bit of our lines, smoothing them out with either a blending stump or your finger or a paper towel or Q-tip. So if you want to stop and get one of those things, so again, a Q-tip, paper towel, something that's going to help you smudge a little bit. And we're going to start up at the head and we're just going to smooth out this section here. And the one above his eye. Well, it's not directly above his eye. We'll be doing that too. The one above his eye, the one around his eye. And you want to get into right around his eye and make that also a little bit shaded. And then we're going to come into the left side of the trunk and we're going to smooth out that area as well. And finally, we're going to come into the ears and right up against where we created shading for this section of the ear. You want to smooth that out and take some of that shading into the bottom portion of the ear, this section here. Now, if you can't do that, what you can do is you can grab your pencil again and lightly shade. And then we have one last final step, and that's darkening up the outside of the outside shape of our elephant. Hi, Diane. We're just finishing up, but welcome. And this is being recorded, so you will receive the recording. It's great to see you. All right, so darkening up a little bit over here and also the eye. You're going to now darken up around the outside of the eye and the inside of the eye. I like to also outline underneath the jaw, make that a little darker. But that is our realistic elephant drawing, and I would love to see um, some of yours if you're willing to share. I'm going to stop the recording at this point.